Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into some heavy philosophical territory.
We are.
We're looking at a critique of the absolute, this idea of fixed truths, and pretty radical alternative, synthesis instead of stasis.
Yeah, the sources lay out a fascinating, almost step-by-step debate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our mission is to unpack that. But, right away, there's this sort of built-in tripwire, isn't there? A logical trap.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of the first big hurdle. The paradox hits you almost immediately. If you state as your core principle that pursuing any absolute truth is, quote, fundamentally flawed.
Right.
Well, you've just stated an absolute truth yourself, haven't you? You're using a fixed, certain idea to tear down the whole notion of certainty.
So it kind of eats itself, logically speaking.
It's self-refuting. By definition, you can't stand on the ground you're trying to blow up.
And this isn't just abstract logic, right? The sources show how this pops up when they try to use analogies like that famous water analogy.
Exactly. The water analogy is supposed to show, everything's fluid, relative, changing, like water.
Makes intuitive sense.
It does on the surface. But the counter argument is, well, pretty sharp. Water can only be fluid and changeable because it has a fundamental, unchanging property.
You mean HO?
Precisely. Its molecular structure. That stable, absolute core is what allows the relativity, the flow, to even exist or be talked about meaningfully without some kind of baseline.
It's just chaos. Meaningless.
You got it. No reference point, no real concept of change, just mush.
Okay, so the argument doesn't quite hold up on pure logic or even descriptive analogy. Where does the debate go then? Because it clearly doesn't just stop there.
No, it pivots, and this is crucial. It moves away from trying to describe the world and towards intent. It becomes about the advocate's goal, which the sources frame as the will to bend difference altogether.
Okay, bend difference altogether. That sounds ambitious.
It's more than just saying everything's relative. It's about actively creating unity. A radical synthesis driven purely by, well, the will.
So it's an act of creation, not just observation.
Exactly. And that shift is the hinge point. Because if you say the individual will is now the force imposing this unity, making the rules.
I think I see where this is going.
You run smack into the problem of the relocated absolute. Have you really gotten rid of a fixed foundation or just moved it?
Moved it inside the person doing the willing.
Precisely. The individual's will, the self, becomes the new ultimate source, the new static point. Instead of God or nature, it's you. Your intent is the bedrock.
And that's a problem because the whole point was to get rid of static bedrock, right? To embrace fluidity.
Exactly. If your own identity, your will, is now the fixed, unchangeable thing imposing synthesis on everything else, you've just swapped one form of stasis for another. The ego becomes the unchallenged pillar.
Which forces another clever move, I assume. How do they get out of that corner?
They have to redefine the self, the will. They argue it's not static, and the analogy they use is powerful. Identity isn't a fixed thing. It's like a hole in the river of meaning.
A hole in the river.
Yeah.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Think of a vortex or an eddy in a river. It has a stable form, right? You can point to it. But it's not made of anything solid.
It's made of the flow around it.
Exactly. It's a pattern, a temporary stability, created by the dynamic motion and resistance of the water, or in this case, meaning. It exists because of the flow, not in spite of it. It can form, persist, and dissipate.
So the self, the will, is stable but not static. It's stability in motion.
That's the key. It elegantly sidesteps the relocated absolute charge. It keeps the dynamism.
Okay, that's quite a conceptual leap. And it seems to solve the metaphysical problem, the issue of a static self.
It does. The identity as a vortex concept is metaphysically coherent within their framework. It answers the charge of self-stasis.
But you sound like there's a but coming.
There's a huge but. We have the metaphysics now, this idea of a dynamic will, a vortex. What we don't have is the physics. The how, the actual mechanism. How does this will, this vortex, actually do the work of synthesis? How does it bend difference together in the real world, not just conceptually? What's the engine?
Right, the practical application is missing.
Completely. The entire structure is sort of floating. It's theoretically neat, but it lacks the operational mechanics.
So for you listening, trying to follow this unfolding philosophy, where does that leave things?
It leaves everything hanging on what comes next. The whole success, the coherence of this entire way of thinking depends entirely on how they define the tools the will uses.
They need to provide the physics for the metaphysics.
Spot on. To make this work, to give the will power without making it just another absolute, they absolutely have to successfully redefine the fundamental concepts we use to describe reality itself.
Like
Like time, energy, and mass. Can they redefine these foundational ideas in a way that provides a non-absolute dynamic mechanism for this will to actually function and shape reality?
That's the make or break question then.
It really is. If they can't build that functional physics, that reliable engine, well, the whole beautiful metaphysical idea collapses back into that initial logical contradiction we started with. That's the critical battleground now.